cloud, temperatures won't be quite as low as we start Friday morning. So not as chilly first thing, but you will have the added impact of that wind. Cloud will be thick enough at times across southern areas to give 1 or 2 showers from time to time, so less in the way of sunshine here. I think the best of the sunshine will be further north, particularly northwest Scotland, having the lion's share of the sunshine here. Now it stays fairly mixed in towards the weekend, dry for most, a few showers across the south, and those temperatures just trending down slightly. Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Dominic Frisby, and this is Headliners, the show that has comedians rather than boring old fuddy-duddies review tomorrow's paper. And with me tonight are Simon Fanshawe and Diane Spencer. But before we hear them speak, we go to the news, which tonight is read to you by Miranda Shunker.
Thank you. Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Boris Johnson says he plans to lead the Conservatives into the next general election. Speaking to reporters on a flight to India, the Prime Minister said he can't think of any reason he would resign. It's as a Labour-led motion is due to take place tomorrow, calling for an inquiry into whether Mr Johnson lied to Parliament. The government's tabled an amendment to delay the vote until all investigations into Downing Street parties have concluded. Russia's deadline for Ukrainian troops to surrender in Mariupol has passed, with a commander in the besieged city warning his forces could survive just days or even hours. At least 1,000 people are said to be sheltering at a steel plant tonight, which is the last Ukrainian stronghold in the southeastern port city. President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to swap Russian prisoners to secure their safe passage. Meanwhile, Russia has test-launched a new addition to its nuclear arsenal. The Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile is said to be capable of overcoming anti-missile defence systems. President Putin says it will give those who threaten Russia something to think about. The Pentagon says it was notified ahead of the launch and the routine test isn't considered a threat to the US. Police have launched a murder inquiry after 3 people were found dead in a Buckinghamshire village. Officers say it was a targeted attack at the property after finding the bodies of a man and a woman in their 60s and a man in his 50s in Bourne End. Thames Valley Police say the deceased were known to each other and they're not looking for anyone else in connection with the incident. Johnny Depp has told a US court he was the victim of domestic violence during his marriage to Amber Heard. The Hollywood actor has given evidence in a defamation case he brought against his former wife. Her lawyers say he physically abused her and have launched a counterclaim against him. Johnny Depp told the court the allegations have had a huge impact on his career.
One day you're Cinderella, so to speak, and then in 0.6 seconds you're Quasimodo. And I didn't deserve that.
And a new picture of the Queen has been released ahead of her 96th birthday tomorrow. Taken last month in the grounds of Windsor Castle, Her Majesty is pictured with two of her ponies. The monarch has travelled from Windsor to Sandringham to stay at a property loved by her late husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. Well, on TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to headliners.
Thank you very much, Miranda. Hello and welcome to Headliners. And let me start by greeting my guests. Tonight, reviewing tomorrow's papers, or this morning's papers, if you're watching the early morning rerun, we have Diane Spencer. Hello, Diane.
Hello.
And plugging his book, we have Simon Fanshawe. And Simon, why don't we open the show with a plug of your book?
Well, that's very kind of you. It's called The Power of Difference, and it's all about the power of difference, how that's an essential part of being human, and it is precisely the fact that we're all different is the only thing we've got in common, and what that means for our life and our work. And it's quite jolly. It's got jokes in it, and it's got stories, and then it's got some research and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, people are abject with gratitude that I've written it, Dominic.
Gratitude was exactly the word that sprang to mind, Simon.
It's called The Power of Difference, available at £14 and a penny, I think.
Bargain. And if
bargain.
If any youngsters are watching and want to learn how to plug a book quickly, there was a masterclass in book pluggery. And now, Diane, have you read this great opus?
Well, I'm waiting for the audiobook to come out because I'm a massive audiobook fan. So I'm waiting for you to accompany me on some kind of long car journey.
Well, I'll dedicate it to you.
Oh, bless you.
What you saw there, ladies and gentlemen, was a masterclass in a tactical play on why we haven't read the book. And I, too, am waiting for the audiobook.
Yes. I shall be back when I've done the audiobook and we'll just play that to you. There's no obligation to buy it, by the way. But there will be a level of social exclusion if you fail.
Well, absolutely. I won't be able to hold my head in decent company anymore.
Exactly.
Are you going to read the audiobook yourself?
I'd love to, actually. I think it'd be fun, although I can't bear the idea of spending hours and hours and hours in my own company, which is effectively what you're doing.
Well, think of the poor listeners' lives.
Right. Let's crack on with the headlines, and we start with the Daily Mail today, which has Palace shock at Harry, Duke of Delusion. Prince Harry was last night accused by royal staff of breathtaking arrogance. There's also a picture of the Queen there with two horses that look like they've just walked off the set of Lord of the Rings. We move on to the Telegraph. There's the same picture of the Queen with those magnificent white... I don't even know what they are. They look like Shire horses, but I guess they won't be. I think the Queen's too grand for Shire horses. Putin tests world's deadliest weapon. Satan II nuclear missile carries a dozen warheads and can strike anywhere in the world. We'll be looking at that story. And Johnson seeks to delay vote on Partygate. On to The Independent, which has a picture of Emmanuel Macron. And they don't say statist centrist Emmanuel Macron. They say Emmanuel Macron faces far-right rival Marine Le Pen. There's a picture of the both of them in Le Débat. And there's also Afghans who helped UK still stranded in danger. On to The Guardian. Johnson fails to block Partygate inquiry as backbenchers mutiny. There's the Queen again with her horses. And there's also Netflix $55 billion slump as viewers switch off. We'll be looking at that story. And last hours for Ukraine forces in Mariupol. Onto the FT. Netflix battered as subscriber plunge shocks streaming market. 2 million set to ditch service. Decade-long rise reverses. News wipes nearly 40% of value. Yes, it's an extraordinary fall. If you take it from the peak, it's actually nearer 70% of its value that Netflix has lost. Wimbledon calls time on Russian and Belarusian players over Ukraine war. The Mirror and Are You Coming or Not Then, which is a reference to whether Prince Harry is coming to the party with just 6 weeks to go. Harry won't commit to Queen's party. The Times. Children's Tsar calls for ban on smacking. We'll be covering that story. Harry snubs Charles in TV interview. And there is the Queen and their horses. Finally, The Express. The horses are there again. Happy 96th birthday, Ma'am. And Prince Harry's ultimate royal snub.
Can I just ask?
No.
What are the horses?
We're going to find out in a second when I have time to look at the horses in more detail. Those are the headlines. Very rude of me, Simon, to say no at that point. But at the point we weren't on screen and we were looking at the headlines, and so it was important. I said those are the headlines, and then we crack on.
Well, fine. I wouldn't want to interrupt your televisual grammar.
Well, precisely. And grammar is very important. Now, let's start. We'll find out what these horses are shortly. Fell ponies is what they are. There we go. But before we do the fell pony story, we have Diane...
Should that be fallen ponies?
No.
Oh, OK.
Fell ponies, but I take a very good little
wordplay there.
Quip for the grammatically aware. Diane, if he ever lets me get there, I will hand it over to you and the Times and this story on the children's Tsar calls for ban on smacking.
Yes. So tomorrow, Dame Rachel D'Souza, the Children's Commissioner, is going to urge ministers in England and Northern Ireland that we should ban smacking completely. You see, Wales and Scotland already have a ban on smacking, and we don't. And although we have something in law which seems a bit sort of wibbly-wobbly and sort of a bit murky, it's all about a reasonable punishment. But what is not then given to the children is the same protection, the same legal protection that an adult would get if they were attacked. Does that make sense?
It does make perfect sense.
So that's why they want to sort of bring this in, and I think it's very interesting. This Times article is very one-sided if you read it.
It is.
This person is.
I mean, it reads like an opinion piece more than a.
It really does. It's even though it's on the front page, it really reads like this person. It was Lucy Fisher, wasn't it?
Well, there's the news story. I think this is the editorial, but I mean, I'm not sure.
But it really reads that they've got a very strong opinion, and they think finally this is they should have brought this in ages ago. This is absolutely violence against children, which of course you are. But I think that what's important is support because I think it's important that parents kind of get together and help each other, and sort of even groups like Mumsnet and things like that, where they sort of say, because sometimes you'll have a child that's out of control and you'll want to just wallop them because you'll be like, I'm at the end of my tether.
Well, yeah,
But discussing techniques would be better and learning from each other to how to...
Yeah, my kids might tell a rather different story, but I don't think I ever smacked them. And I think I was probably smacked once or twice.
I was.
But more, I would say... I don't even know what the word is, gently coughed rather than actually smacked. But I guess it's all, it depends how much force. And then maybe parents will say, well, we need to have the option to smack or the threat of smacking, even if we don't actually want to smack, because otherwise we carry less authority and we carry less discipline. Where do you stand on this, Simon?
The only time I was ever smacked, once by my father, was a knot in the wood in the floor, a sort of hole emerged, and I decided to pour all my mother's makeup and put several of her earrings down there. And to the day she died, she had one of a pair of pearl earrings that she occasionally would show me and say, "Do you remember when I lost the other one?" And on the
what was worse, the guilt trip or the smack?
Well, the smack was pretty. I don't remember it, but I remember the fact that it happened, if you like. But the worst thing about it was
called a lack of consciousness.
Yes, well, and the plaster in the room downstairs went pink, and they had to completely redo the ceiling. So I am, by and large, think that this is probably about protecting kids from parents not who are doing, because I think what you say is very sensible, but it's probably about protecting kids from parents not who are the occasional smack or what. It's probably about, in the end, adults who abuse this in relation to kids and continue to smack them, and there's no doubt about it that it neither works and it damages kids. My brother had it, and it was not from parents, from a teacher. Appalling.
So Thursday's Sun and Vladimir Putin has been testing out the amazing name, the Satan II nuclear missile. And Simon, this is yours and scary stuff.
Why do people... Satan II? What? I mean, really? Who called it Satan II? I mean, somebody did, and it being in the Sun, I wouldn't be at all surprised if it wasn't the Sun that called it Satan II. But this thing goes at an incredible speed. And so what I didn't realise until I read the story more carefully was that Satan II is just the missile, and the missile then carries the nuclear warheads. So it drops them, and it can carry 12, and apparently if it drops them, it could destroy something as big as France. This would be
Normally it's Wales, but this is France.
Well, this is France. This could be a bad thing. It travels...
It flies, yes.
The one that they launched travelled 3,600 miles in around 15 minutes, which frankly puts my car into the shade, you know, the 0 to 60 thing. But the thing that gets
me...
Simon. The thing that really gets me, though, was that the Russian Defence Ministry, you know, was kind of going, well, actually, you know, you'll find that our energy... And this is so great. So, thanks to the energy mass characteristics of the missile, the range of its combat equipment, blah, 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 and its warheads and types, including hypersonic gliders. Yeah. And what this reminded me of was those ludicrous moisturiser ads that you get on the television that have things like hyperuronic acid.
Hyaluronic acid.
Hyaluronic. Well done, you know all that. You probably buy the stuff. Hyaluronic, and then bioferment moisture surge and such like. And I just thought, this guy from Russia sounds like he's just making stuff up in order to go, we've got this really big missile and it's really, really dangerous. And actually what lies behind this is terrifying.
Yeah. I'll say... That, just to put that number, 3,600 miles, into some kind of context, it is the length of Russia.
Yes.
Which is pretty big. Diane, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it is mildly worrying that an unstable man, Putin, who is hiding multiple health complaints from his public and is followed around by a neurosurgeon, great, because we all need one of them, has got this weapon. It's a shame that, you know, natural causes won't hurry up and take him and God strike him down, but apparently God's reading our immigration policies instead. I think what's important is that nobody panics. It is a hypersonic missile, so it is very good at detecting, evading sort of anti-missile things. Very worrying. We just have to hope that there are people on his inner circle who recognise that destroying part of the planet the size of France is not just going to destroy France, it's going to have a knock-on effect to the rest of the planet.
And he also does this thing the whole time, too, where he talks about this is a response to those who would, you know, invade and attack Russia. You go, no, love, I think you're attacking somewhere else at the moment. I think you've kind of projection, yes?
Well, the chap I follow on Twitter, so it must be true, but he's brilliant on all this stuff, says that Putin doesn't have control of the button, so...
Oh, good.
That's good to know. Right, the Times...
You wouldn't, to be honest, you wouldn't give him control of the television remote, would you?
Well, the Times is next, and it would seem that the Prime Minister and the Archbishop of Canterbury are not seeing eye to eye, Diane.
No, we've got a very unholy trifecta going on. So the Church has accused Boris Johnson of a disgraceful slur on the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, because he slagged off the immigration policy, saying, I've got God's ear, mate, and God's not impressed with you. This is not on. And Boris, who had just issued his non-apology to the Houses of Parliament, then is trying to muddy the waters. He's sort of throwing things in the way, like smoke grenades, because like anybody who doesn't apologise properly, instead of facing up to what he's done, he's trying to sort of deflect. So he tried to sort of swap it onto the Archbishop's criticism of the Rwandan policy, and the church is piling on onto this. And then, for some reason, it's shifted onto the BBC's coverage of Ukraine, because you've got Keir Starmer trying to attack him at all angles. Basically, it's just an old big mess. And this is why Easter needs chocolate and daffodils and bunny rabbits, because I tell you what, these Easter messages all about sort of being I can't remember what they said. It was something, it was a D word, something that they said about the thing that they said about the Rwandan thing. What did they say? They said it was disgraceful, they said it was an act against God. Yeah, that's why we need...
Diabolic, perhaps.
There we go. Right, we move on to Thursday's Telegraph and the latest developments in the Julian Assange saga. Simon, Julian Assange, hero or villain?
Assange. Look, I think what's difficult about Julian Assange is that he's clearly, in what I've read about him, just ghastly.
My God, did you read all the things he did in the Ecuadorian embassy?
All that stuff. He's the sort of person my mother would just say, darling, he's simply ghastly, don't get involved. So, on that level, but you can't condemn someone for doing something simply because they're ghastly. So, what we have to think is, what did he do? What he did was, he got access to, in whatever way, a vast cache of information, which he released in an unedited way. A load of that information uncovered behaviour by the States, as it happened, but I'm sure there are other countries...
Considerably more ghastly than he is.
Which is considerably more ghastly than he is, and clearly exposed a series of practices which should have been exposed. That's absolutely fine. But it also exposed a whole bunch of other stuff, although people are saying, well, actually, no one died as a result of it. I think the big issue that lies behind this, which is really difficult for us to decide, is that actually, if we live in a world where nation-states guard their own security, we guard our security, actually, the way that's supposed to work is that actually government needs to have some secrets. It needs sometimes not to tell the whole truth. For instance, no politician should stand up in Parliament and risk a devaluation of the currency, for instance, and so on and so forth. And in terms of defence, you need to keep things secret. However, that has to be accompanied by accountability. And the problem with this is that if you just release information like that, you break that level of trust. Equally, if you behave like the current Prime Minister and break the level of trust that people have in Parliament, people don't trust the scrutiny. So the big issue for me that underlies this is that what Assange has done is broken trust, exposed something, but the response is not rebuilding that trust that's been broken.
OK, Diane, very quickly, your views on this.
I would not want Priti Patel deciding my fate. If she was deciding my fate, I would buy a helmet.
I said this on Saturday, but I want to repeat Alexei Sale's great remark about Priti Patel. He said she's the sort of person who would turn off somebody's life support machine in order to charge her phone.
Well, I'm not sure that's quite right, but we'll give him the benefit.
I think you'll find it's a joke, Dominic.
I was going to say, we'll give him the benefit of hyperbole. Right, Thursday's Guardian next, and Prince Harry's ongoing tantrum over having to pay for his own security, Diane.
OK, so Prince Harry has said he wants to protect the Queen and ensure the right people are around her. Now, she always has the right people around her, mate. She always does. I'm not sure... You see, he's in this argument about how he should have the same level of protection he had when he was a working royal, but now he's just a bloke, and he's going to go and meet his nan. He's like, oh, no, she's in danger now. Yeah, she's only in danger if Meghan loses it and, like, throws a croissant at her or something, or an avocado. It's like, the Queen's still going to have all of her security, Harry. You don't need to worry about it. She meets normal people all the time. You're now a normal person. She will be fine. And what I don't like about this is that I feel that Harry is holding the grandkids hostage from his gran, going, well, you know, Archie and Lilibet could come over if we had proper security. And it's like, Don't be like that. Grow up, bring the kids over, face up to what you've done, and bring your nana some flowers and chocolates.
Absolutely right. Well spoken, Diane. That is it for part one. You have 2 minutes, dear viewer, to decompress, meditate, gather yourself and prepare your minds. And dare I say your souls for part two. We will see you in a moment.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and with me tonight, looking at tomorrow's papers, we have Diane Spencer and Simon Fanshawe, and I will let you, dear viewer, work out who is who. And so we go to The Guardian, and Thursdays... we don't. We go to The Times, Thursday's Times, and Netflix stock has been tanking, and Elon Musk, the man with the biggest ego in the world, has been explaining why, Simon.
Well, the headline says, Elon Musk claims, quote, woke virus has made Netflix unwatchable. Could we find a new word, please? I am bored with the word woke. It's now used...
I thought you were going to say virus.
No, I'm bored with virus too. But woke is just being used as everything. You know, if you dare to suggest that, you know, young black men are not all gangsters and drug dealers, woke! You know, or all gay men are not sissies or just camp best friends, woke! You know, I'm really bored with it. It's become a kind of catch-all now and it's become a big net, you know. What he's saying here is that, and I don't think it's true, I had a quick look at the Netflix programme. I was thinking, what have I watched on Netflix recently? I've watched all sorts of things, all sorts of documentaries. I don't think that I think he's trying to attract attention. And what's interesting too is that if you look at, they've lost 200,000 subscribers in the last quarter. They've got 221 million subscribers. They've lost 0.09% of their subscribers. So what is interesting about the story is, why has the stock price crashed so badly? What's he doing in order to draw attention to that? And he's clearly in a mood to buy at the moment. So you begin to think to yourself, no, is this a market play?
No. I'm going to defend Elon Musk on this.
Oh, I'm not attacking him. I'm merely saying that
I think if you compare Netflix to something, you know, to the BBC, for example, it is not as bad. But when he says something like, can they just make sci-fi that's mostly about sci-fi?
Which I don't watch sci-fi because I think it's silly.
There you go. So you're reviewing Netflix on the basis of its documentaries.
No, and Bridgerton and, all sorts of things that I watch on Netflix.
He does
Grace
have a point,
and Frankie.
but his point is common to pretty much all TV, and it sort of no longer becomes what it's about. But in the case of Netflix, the real driver, there's been two things that have driven the stock price down. One is tech generally has sold off over the past year, had a massive boom in the lockdown because everyone was turning to Netflix, Amazon and so on. But the real problem with Netflix is it's lost its monopoly. So you've now got Disney and Amazon Prime.
But it's still almost twice the size of Disney in terms of subscribers. They've got 120. They've got 129. Netflix has got 221 million.
Yeah, but Netflix is falling. Disney's programmes have been better. It's a big challenger. And remember, when in the stock market, people...
I'm not defending or attacking Netflix.
I know, but in the stock market, people will... stuff gets priced in. So they think Netflix is declining, Disney's on the rise. So it's not today's price, it's...
I know, but I just think... all I'm saying is it strikes me that it's an exaggeration and the market is operating, and I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah. I'm not taking a side on this. I'm just fed up with this kind of woke. Could we please find another word which doesn't suggest that the minute you depart from some stereotype, apparently you've veered off into the kind of mad, crazy world of social justice warriors?
I take your point. I can't stand the word, and I very rarely use it. But in this case, Elon Musk is right. Diane, what do you think?
You've obviously got an obsession with a secret love of Elon Musk.
No, I don't. I've blocked him on Twitter. I can't bear him. But in this case, he's right. Diane,
I am a sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
And I don't like it when sci-fi is not about sci-fi. Sci-fi is about us as a group, and we go out and we explore, and it is about love, and it is about journeys and things like that. But sometimes sci-fi can get hijacked by a soap opera template, or it can get hijacked by an action template, and you can lose that thing that makes it proper science fiction. And I just think that he actually watched Star Trek Discovery, because that's the brand new Star Trek. And I'll tell you what, oh my gosh, it is the biggest rainbow you've ever seen of everything, because it's
But
Star
so was
Trek.
the original Star Trek.
Yes,
with
it
Chekhov
is,
and
because
Mr.
they
Zulu
always
and
go forward.
Lieutenant
They
O'Hara
always
and
go
so on.
forward. But it got, initially when it went on screen, it got a lot of people going, oh my God, like everybody just went, what is this? Like there's a dead zombie boyfriend made of mushrooms. It's all just... It's bizarre.
Watching you two is like watching two Masons talk in some peculiar language.
TV needs a good new fantasy series, that is for sure. Now, Apple's new child safety features in its messages, Diane.
Oh, yes. So Apple are going to bring out safety features which will scan messages for nudity. And they're going to put it on UK iPhones. You see, for too long, children have been subjected to ducks that only wear T-shirts and they waddle around with their bottoms out, and mouses only wearing trousers, waddling around with their tops out, and there's penguins and pigs, and they're all naked. Well, finally, this is going to be pixelated over. But in all seriousness, this is a wonderful safety feature, in my personal opinion, because if you were going to make a toy for a child, you wouldn't make that toy out of razor blades and exposed electrical items, would you? You would make it out of soft, curved items. You would make it very child-friendly. A mobile phone should be the same. A mobile phone should have child safety features, and this is a great one. So the phone will not send any of your images to Apple, so worry ye not, but it will take the image, have a wee look, see if it thinks it's a naked person or not, and if it is, it's going to blur it and give the child options to talk to an adult, maybe check, and it also works with the photo sending things out. For me, I think this is a great step of big tech trying to have some responsibility.
And also what's interesting about it too is that originally the idea was that the phone could then be set to alert the parents. And they've taken that out. What I think, because I agree with you totally, but what I like about it is this idea that actually it's putting the responsibility back on the kids. It's saying to the kids, reflect about this, hang on a second, think about this, you could do X, Y or Z. That feels to me like something which is giving kids some autonomy and actually saying to them, let's take responsibility.
Right, here's an interesting moral quandary from The Mirror. The man who made an offensive video about Grenfell Tower has been given a suspended prison sentence, Simon.
Yes, the Mirror, man who laughed as he filmed burning Grenfell Tower model narrowly avoids jail. Yeah, what they did was they made a model, a cardboard model of the Grenfell Tower. They threw it on a bonfire, watched it burn and shouted out things like, "Who's jumping? That's what happens when you don't pay the rent. Stay in your flats." And you do think there's a level of insensitivity to that which is quite staggering. It's a bit like saying to Jackie Kennedy, "Do you remember where you were when Kennedy was shot?" I mean, there is an absolute level which I just can't bear it. I just cannot believe they did. Now, to be fair to him, he did say it was a moment of complete stupidity and it was terribly and definitely offensive to people and it was one of those stupid moments. So, well done him for actually apologising, but, I mean, what a terrible thing to do.
Yes, it was a terrible thing to do, utterly tasteless, and he's apologised, and crikey, the man must have suffered a lot. Given the outrage.
Yeah, not as much as the 78 people who died.
Of course not, but the outrage, you know, what was intended to be a stupid joke has provoked so much.
Well, part of the problem is, of course, these things get amplified.
Should this be a matter for the police? Should this man, it'd be a possibility that this guy gets prosecuted?
Well, the question is,
the issue is because he made a video and then sent the video to somebody else.
That's the problem.
Once you've sent it to somebody else, he has lost control over it.
Yeah, but that's the problem, is that we've got this constant problem at the moment, haven't we, about this notion of what publishing means. At the moment, what in the old days, I sound like back in the old days, there was before social media, publishing something was a much more difficult and conscious act, whereas now it's a very, very easy thing to do, and the way in which it spreads. And so we haven't yet got a grip, have we, on what damage that publishing is doing. So actually, I think he should be published because he did take something and he did amplify it. If they'd just done it in their garden, it would have been horrible, but he amplified it and chose so to do.
I'm not defending the joke, but I think...
No, I know, I hear what you're saying.
We're on dodgy ground.
But what do we do? If you publish things which are... we're back to, do we have total freedom of speech to publish anything, no matter what? And the answer is we do limit ourselves. We limit what we say and do, and so publishing in some ways has to be accountable, I think, to matters of public taste.
OK, more jokes going wrong in The Independent, Diane, and this one a Madeleine McCann joke. And if you've got something to say about the last one, crowbar it in here.
No problem. Well, the last one, I'll simply say it was not a joke. I would have classed it as hate speech and racism. So, therefore, in my personal opinion, it did not fulfil the requirements for a joke.
It was intended as a joke.
But it didn't fulfil the technical requirements.
OK, but one person... Yeah. One person's humour is another person's hate speech.
Yeah, but we all know that actually intention doesn't make a joke. What makes a joke is laughter.
So this advert for a burger van was
the original
banned.
Audience did
I think you'll find there's a woman talking.
Will you stop it, Simon? Off you go, Diane.
So an advert for a burger van has been banned because it jokes about Madeleine McCann. Now, what I think is quite interesting about this is obviously the two stories are connected. You see, they had a picture of Kate McCann and they had the text stating, "With burgers this good, you'll leave your kids at home. What's the worst that could happen?" Now, the sentence itself, let's take that sentence. That is actually a setup for a joke. And that is an appropriate setup for a joke. And you could have a great picture where you have the kids, like, spray painting the wall. You could have the dog ripping the sofa apart. You could have chaos inside the house and the mum outside enjoying the juicy burger. She's not going to go in the house because the burger's so good. That's when the advert becomes funny. But instead, what they did was they did something very lazy, something very insensitive, and something that I think is full of bad taste. And they actually used a picture of Kate McCann and Madeleine, and they had a picture of a man running off with the child, and they circulated this. Now, I think it's bad taste for many reasons, but one key reason is they clearly used an image without any consent. I cannot believe it for 1 second that Kate McCann was even asked whether her image could be used to promote their products. But also, it's what I'm glad about is this is a very bad taste advert. And why would you have a bad taste for food? Because when I see a bad taste, it literally gives you a bad taste. You feel a bit sick. You don't like it. And I'm kind of glad because I hope people looked at that advert and they felt sick. And I hope that nobody buys their burgers. And I'm not mentioning which company it was, but I'm sure that they're because I'm not going to give them.
No, I
a try.
agree with you. There's a kind of confusion, isn't there, here between the idea of shock and the idea of free speech. You know, that's what lies behind this. There's some idea in there that I can say what I like, and the fact that it's bad taste and shocking and horrible in a peculiar kind of converse way somehow justifies it. And I find that it's like, otherwise I can't work out why they would do it. They must have thought that it had some kind of shock value and therefore some kind of inherent good. And I just thought, why are you doing this?
They've never properly died in a comedy club and then had to learn how to moderate their comedy.
It's National Insensitivity Week, isn't it?
Is it?
Well, clearly, after those two stories.
Right, we're going to take another break. Part 3 has all the weird stories, as if it could get weirder than that. So come back to us for that when we'll find out about the gold-digging puppy, the insect apocalypse, and geoengineering to prevent the worst effects of climate change. That's all in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GBNews.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. This is part 3 when we cover all the weird stories. I'm Dominic Frisby. With me are Diane Spencer and Simon Fanshawe. And we're going to start with not such a weird story. A French study reported in the Mail has found that Muslim girls in France get better grades and integrate more as a result of the ban on wearing veils. Simon, why don't you explain?
Well, just the context of that. So 2004... the French banned the wearing of veils by girls in schools. Not in universities, by the way, and not in public places by adults, but girls in schools. And what they didn't ban the veil. What they did was they banned ostentatious religious signs, which included, therefore, the Sikh turban, a cross, and also the Jewish kippah. So what you've got here is a clash.
You couldn't have a necklace with a cross on it.
You couldn't have a necklace with a cross on it unless it was discreet. There was this peculiar distinction between ostentatious and discreet. But the veil is where it got focused. So what you've got here is you've got a commitment by the French state to this idea, which dates from the early 20th century, which is secularism. And it's a profoundly powerful part of the notion of the Republic. It's this idea that we are all French, there are no subdivisions. So, for instance, in France, you cannot, in my business, diversity, you can't collect religious or ethnic data, for instance, on your employees. You're not allowed. So the secularism is really sort of sewn into the French state. On the other side, then, you've got religious freedom, this idea of complete religious freedom. And it doesn't divide right or left, actually, who takes what side in this debate. It's a profound debate in France. What is interesting about it, though, is that it's got so many roots, because it's got a root in colonialism, of course, because the French were involved in, you know, Algiers primarily and Tunisia also. Now, in Tunisia, actually, there are campaigns against women wearing the veil. In Algeria, there are campaigns against women wearing the veil. That's interesting. But also, the notion of the veil is connected with colonialism and the resistance to colonialism and the refusal, if you like, to integrate. So you've got this whole dynamic around integration and assimilation. And the French, by and large, like the notion of assimilation far more powerfully than we do.
Tell us about the study.
So the study says that there's an increase in 13% more likely to graduate from high school than their non-Muslim peers. That's the group of young Muslim girls who didn't wear the veil, and that compares with 7% of those girls who did wear the veil. So there's a big educational attainment gap here. But what we don't know is what the girls' attitude was towards wearing the veil in the first place. So what we don't know is whether the girls wanted to wear the veil and then had it taken off them, or actually they didn't want to wear it in the first place. So there's a complicated story that underlies this, which actually, in a sense, this headline... And it doesn't surprise me that they integrated better, because they were separated less, because the veil separates you off.
I was going to say the veil is by definition...
But by the way, we're talking the hijab. We're not talking the niqab here. I mean, obviously, if it was the niqab, but the great bulk, of course, of people young girls are wearing the hijab.
Good stuff. Right, let us turn next, Diane. We're going to skip the smartphone story for a moment and come back to it. But, Diane, we're going to do degree grade matters more than university, so that you have a chance to speak.
Oh, OK, lovely. So, yes, this is a story by The Guardian, and, yes, your degree grade that you end up with matters more than the reputation of the university at which you got it. So this is a report by the Institute of Fiscal Studies, and they have discovered that when you get a first or a 2-1 at a university, you're more likely to be paid more and get a higher earning job than if you get a 2-2 or something else. But this is true whether you go to one of these selective posh universities or not. So if you go to sort of somewhere like Oxford or Cambridge, you know, one of the big hitters, and which is very hard to get into, and you get in and you get a 2-2, you could still end up getting less cash and a less well-paying job, like something like 30% less.
Yeah.
Than if you sort of grab a degree in Victoria and David Beckham studies from Plymouth, but you get a first.
That's the implication. What annoyed me about the story is that it sort of justifies... it sort of encourages people to go to a less celebrated, a less famous university. And the point is, you don't know what degree you're going to get before you go to university. A lot of that depends on how hard you work when you get there, and so on and so forth. Go on, Simon.
Well, I was going to say... No, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say something. I was chairman of Sussex University for 6 years. And, you know, universities perform very different functions for different people. So if you go to a university like, for instance, Derby, or one of those universities in the Midlands, one of the smaller universities, or post-92 universities, typically what will happen is that you'll live closer there, you'll end up working there, and you'll actually be much more part of a regional economy than if you go, say, to Oxford and Cambridge, where everybody comes in from Oxford and Cambridge all over, and then they go out again. So all I'm saying is that those universities perform quite different functions for different kids. So my argument has always been, choose the university that'll work for you.
Oh, definitely.
Wise words. Right, we're going to do this story on mobile phones next, spending too much time on your mobile phone. And if you spend less time, your life improves, apparently, according to...
Daily Mail headline, cutting your smartphone use by just an hour a day makes you less anxious, more satisfied with life and more likely to exercise, a study has found. Could we just... Wait, one thing about mobile phones. Could people stop walking down the street and looking at their mobile phones and bumping into me? Could that happen, please? That would make my life happier. So my argument would be it's other people spending less time on their mobile phones in the street, which would improve my life. That would be my view.
I do get my little report at the end of the week. You know, do you not get a report from your phone and it tells you how much time you've spent on it? And it's
what's awful? That's what's ghastly about these phones.
It's like 3.5 hours a day I'm on mine.
But what's ghastly about these phones is they know more about me than I do. You know, have you ever put if you know a couple, you know, and they split up and you put their address then separately into the phone, you can hear the phone going, I didn't think it would last.
That's you updating the ringtone. He's calling, run! Don't pick up! Don't pick up!
I tell you, how many times have you written an email or even drafted a text message? Maybe somebody's given you the hump and you've drafted an angry email or whatever, and then you thought to yourself, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to send that. And you do the email equivalent of tearing it up. And so that is your darkest thoughts, perhaps, that you haven't uttered. But your phone knows them, because you've typed them into your phone. So it knows the dark thoughts that you had but didn't say.
It does. You move house, they go, oh, well, I thought they're going up in the world.
Well, just don't talk out loud too much, because I've noticed that when I talk a little bit too much near my phone, it's suddenly all the adverts change.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll say.
I've got all these
It's listening to every word. Right. Thursday's Telegraph and Stop and Search for Cannabis, based on when people smell of cannabis, is illegal, apparently, Simon.
No, it should be illegal. So the IOPC, which is the police kind of watchdog, says that it should be illegal just to stop people on the smell. And that seems to be entirely reasonable. It's not smoking cannabis that's the problem. It's selling it that's the problem. And if they really want... I mean, two things I would say about this. One is 700,000 people were stopped up to March 2021, OK, by police in England and Wales. Less than 23% of those people, those searches resulted in any further action. That is worse than my dating history before I got married. That is a very, very poor hit rate. And the second thing is, if they really want to stop people...
Is it that poor a hit rate?
Well, I think it's appalling, but if they really want to stop people...
Lots of meals for one.
Number one is people who've got ghastly aftershave, and number of people who smoke cigarettes. That's what they should be stopping getting on trains and stuff like that. These dogs, they should be sniffing around for people who do that and people whose clothes are damp.
My view is that cannabis should be legal, so the whole thing is stupid anyway. But in any case, if somebody stinks of weed, and cannabis is illegal, it's not unreasonable to stop and search him.
No, because possession is not the point, it's dealing. In the year to March 2021, black people were 7 times more likely to be stopped by white people, and Asian people 2.5 times more likely.
There you go. Stats. Right, the Telegraph now, and Diane, the truffle-hunting, gold-digging puppy.
So, this is a lovely story. So, Ollie, a Lagotto Romagnolo... Romagnolo is a truffle-hunting puppy, and he actually found buried treasure on his first walk, and he unearthed gold coins. He's a gold-digging puppy. So, the breed, apparently...
15 gold sovereigns.
15 gold sovereigns, and they have been valued at £5,943, and the owner is absolutely thrilled because he's like, well, I paid £2,000 for the puppy itself. I've already got my investment back. Should just say to people...
£2,000 for a puppy, blimey.
£2,000, yeah, but apparently this gentleman, Mr. Clark, he said that he has allergies to certain animals. So he said that he had to be very selective in what puppy he bought. So he bought a puppy that hunts for treasure in the form of gold or truffles. That's a very specific allergy, isn't it? I'm allergic to all the poor dogs that don't find anything good.
Do you know how much 15 gold sovereigns used to be worth?
Tell me.
£15.
No.
Sovereign's the old pound coin.
Yes. Well, I knew that. That's like... Well, we're not going to go into this. Of
But
course,
it gives you an idea.
Dominic's old enough to remember.
If £15 is now £6,000, it just gives you an idea of how much the...
And I say,
pound has lost.
you say the sovereign is the old pound. Wouldn't it be true that the Queen is the old sovereign?
Very true. The Guardian now, and Right to Roam, something I've never fully understood. I'm not sure anyone does, but perhaps you can explain it to us, Simon.
Fears over the right to roam in England as ministers wind up review. They had a review, and the review is on the right to roam. Here's what interesting thing. 92% of land in England is privately owned. I didn't know it was that much. This review was supposed to be carried out by somebody called Lord Agnew. And who comes through, he's Lord Agnew of Alton, which is in Norfolk, which has lots and lots of privately owned land. But here's the thing about this bloke. I'm not surprised they wound up Lord Agnew's review, because you may remember that sometime back, i.e. January 2022, i.e. this January, Lord Agnew resigned from the government. And he resigned from the government because he was shocked at the way in which the business bounce-back scheme was being run, and there were fraudulent claims. And he said that he was resigning because of a combination of arrogance, indolence and ignorance was freezing the government machine, and he accused the government of schoolboy errors. And then he said this brilliant thing, he said, but that's not an attack on the Prime Minister. And you think, I wonder why they round up the review.
Wow. Any thoughts on Right to Roam?
Well, I think it's interesting that these places get public money, but there is no public access.
That makes me cross.
Yeah, so I think if you're getting public money to maintain your land, then maybe let people walk along it and make sure you put litter bins in, because what I have noticed is that some people aren't great at dealing with their litter.
And actually, we should roam properly.
Yeah,
we should roam properly, and that's a good idea.
It is, but there's a lot of people. There's another side to it where the landowners have public paths or whatever through their land, and people don't behave well on their land and create all sorts of problems. And it's like so many of these issues. It's not quite as.
I love that sign.
Newspaper would have you believe.
There's a lovely sign in my parents' house in Wiltshire. I think it got quite copied, but it was trespassers will be surprised by the consequences of their actions.
There we go. Right, the Mail now, and capital letters in the title. Insect populations have halved in some parts of the world, Diane.
Yes, so warming climate and intensive agriculture have continued this insect apocalypse. Some of the bug populations have halved in the tropical parts of the world. Now, this is from the researchers from the University College London, and they've studied records of nearly 20,000 insect species over 20 years. And obviously, insects are incredibly important because they pollinate things. They are eaten by sort of a select group of mammals, which are then eaten and eaten and eaten. And they've found that it's really the natural habitats. Once the natural habitats are given over to agriculture, there's massive decimations in the insect population, which is going to have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, it's as though they need a study to tell you that monocultural fields don't provide the necessary variety. You know, they kill diversity. It's just so obvious. I don't know why they need a study to tell you that.
It is obvious, but I think that until you have a study on this scale and you have a study done by a reputable institution, that perhaps you can't influence government policy, which you may need to do. But what is interesting to me, which I thought was very interesting in this particular article in the Daily Mail, is the connection between the temperature of the Earth and malaria. I found that very interesting. Or is that in the next article?
That's in the next
one. Oh, God, I got
one.
so confused.
No, you're absolutely right.
What's interesting is of course, it doesn't tell you because it's the Guardian, but in many parts of the world, particularly
don't wear your prejudices on your sleeve, love.
In the developed world, the amount of land that is wilderness or wild land is dramatically on the increase, and particularly in North America, Europe, and in other parts of the world, basically wherever there's money, wilderness is growing. And it's never reported in The Guardian. Right, we have 40 seconds. Because The Guardian would have you believe that the world's ending tomorrow and we must all go and live in a bunker and stop capitalism and stop development altogether. Right, ladies and gents, that is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my... We've got time for one more story. I have it in my ear.
Oh, yay!
What do you want to do?
Let's do robo-balls.
Oh! OK, so the Ukraine
I'm
forces...
sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off. We don't have time to do
Oh!
that is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Diane Spencer. Thank you to Simon. And thank you to you at home. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here.
Joe Biden walking out.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's